I would like to call upon the one who directs the day-to-day activities, who's Moiseh Nefesh for this Moisid, a person who himself could have easily slipped into the woodwork years and years ago, having attained what he needed. And despite that, due to the fact that he felt the pain, he was going to make sure that he would help any one of Achenu B'nai Yisrael who was feeling that loneliness and that struggle. I would like to call upon Rabbi Shaul Rosen to address us.
Don't stop. I think the only words that we could say on tonight's event is Mi ka'amchu Yisrael. We start off davening every single day with the famous phrase of Matoivi Oyuleichu Yankov Mishkeneseichu Yisrael. Rashi explains why did Bilam HaRasha say this, and Rashi says Al Shara B'scheyem She'einem Mechavanam Zeh Mil Zeh. Bilam HaRasha saw that the doors and the windows weren't aligned one against another. And that's when he said this praise of Matoivi Yehuleichu Yankov Mishkenei Seichu Yisrael. So I want to ask you all a question. Is this the greatest praise for Klal Yisrael? The fact that one cannot see what is happening in his friend's home? Is this our shvach? From the youngest of age, we are taught to help one another, to worry about one another. How can we know what our friends lack if we don't see what's doing in their home? It seems like this interest, it appears like a display of apathy. And this is the shvach that Chazal said that a yid should start off davening with. Matoivi Oyuleichu Yankov Mishkeneseichu Yisrael. But herein lies the answer to our question. A yid does not have to look into his friend's house to know what he is struggling with. We can feel our friend's pain. We know what they are suffering. Because as David Bedil brought out so nicely today in the afternoon, Chazal say, Kol Yisrael Arayvim Zeh Lezeh. All of Klal Yisrael is connected as one. When one yid suffers, it is communal. And that is precisely what we see here today. Scores of Yidden from all over, from all different backgrounds, have gathered to be oisik in Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasudim. Learning, davening, and raising the needed funds for couple who they have never met and who they will never know. The opening of their homes are not aligned because they need not to look in each other's houses to see their pain. Their hearts are bound together, and that connection supersedes all else. However, we at ATIME are aware of their pain. We meet it head on every minute of every day, and our efforts are directed at easing this piercing suffering. Our deepest desire is to see every couple enjoying the nachas that only a child can bring. The Gemara in Bava Basra discusses a pasuk in Parshas Chayesara, where the pasuk says, "V'Hashem beirech es Avruam b'koil," and Hashem benched Avruam with everything. And the Gemara asks, "Ma b'koil?" What is the pasuk referring to when it says b'koil? Rashi explains in Chumash that the numerical value of Bakoil is 52, the same as Ben Beis Nian, meaning to say that Avram was gebenched with a son. The Gemara brings down different opinions. Rabbi Yehuda says Avram blessed with a daughter. Acherim Amrim, Bas Hoyeloi Avram. Avram had a daughter, I Bakoil Shema, and her name was Bakoil. What is going on over here? Why can't the pasuk be translated simply as everything? Bakoil meaning everything. Why must they argue whether Bakoil might refer to a son or to a daughter? And whom does it concern if the name was Bakoil or not? The answer is relevant today as it was then. A person can be blessed with everything the world has to offer. He can be the most successful business person, the biggest entrepreneur. But if he has no one to pass it on to, if he has no ben, or he has no bas, then he actually has nothing. Therefore, since the pasuk said that Avraham was gebenched with Bakoil, Vashem Beirech as Avraham Bakoil, it indicates he was blessed with a child. And that's why Avraham Avini named his daughter Bakoil, to remember that children are everything. We heard it today, a couple that was not zoiche yet to go to her child goes through so much pain that it is impossible to put into words. I have spent so much time with these couples, and the pain cannot be described. I want to ask all of you for just one moment. Do you hear what I hear? Do you hear that deafening silence? Everybody, please just listen. It's quiet. It's still. There's no tinkling laughter to break the spell. There's no childless chatter to disturb the silence. No one screaming out, Mami, Tati. Now imagine living with this silence every minute of every day of every week of every month. The quiet stretches into months and then years, and the Shabbosim and Yom Tovim, with no end in sight. It is a silence that is so loud, blocking out all hints and promise of hope. A couple not yet blessed with children lives in this silence. There is no pain that is quite as deep and searing as the pain of infertility. Allow me to share with you a story that happened recently. It's a story of an individual, but it tells the heartbreaking stories of so many others. A Rav called me from out of town regarding a couple in his community that were dedicated Baalei Tshuva, who had both left their families for the quest of Yiddishkeit. But now, 5 years after their marriage, this courageous young couple had not yet been blessed with children. The Rav asked to see what we can do and how to help them. He said they're mamash at a loss. I spoke with the couple. I reassured them. We at ATIME deal with these things constantly. We will stand at your side and lead you through the necessary stages. I asked them, please send me over your records so we can see what you have done and how to move on. When I got the medical records, I saw they were really only focusing on the wife as the problem, and all their efforts were directed in that channeled in that direction. After forwarding the medical files to the ATIME medical team, it became clear that the efforts so far have been ineffective because they were focusing on the wrong issue. They would now need to shift their focus to the husband. I got them in touch with our Dayan, Rabbi Shaul Rosen, to see what they are allowed to do. There are so many halacha shalas when you are dealing with infertility, and so many details that have to be taken into account. Rabbi Unga reviewed their case and approved for them to move on. The initial results were not good. We flew them into New York to see the biggest specialist in this area, and he did not give high chances either. But we told him how important this case was to us, and he agreed to give it a try. We set up an appointment for a few months down the road. This procedure is a very invasive procedure. It's only done a few times a year. We flew them in, we put them up, took care of them for the 3 weeks that we're going to be spending here in New York. A day before the procedure, I got a call from the Ingerman. He asked if he can come up to my office. I understood that he must be extremely nervous about tomorrow's procedure. So I told him, I'll meet you and let's go for a walk. To my surprise, he only had one request. He said to me, Rabbi Rosen, it would be such a chizuk for me if you would come along with me tomorrow to the procedure. I was taken a little bit aback. We have, Baruch Hashem, over 30 mashgichim and mashgichais who are in the centers every single day from 6 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock in the evening. And they are there to watch over every single procedure, and they are there to comfort the couples. But he asked me to come along with him. So how can I say no? So I came. It came time to go into the OR, to the operating room. I accompanied them into the operating room for a procedure that normally takes an hour and a half, up to 2 hours. But this procedure went on and on, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. After 4.5 hours, the doctor looks up and says, I'm sorry, we didn't meet with success. The man is under anesthesia. He's going to be like that for another few hours. His wife is waiting in the waiting room, and I have to be the one to go out to meet her. I was in agony. How can I tell someone that? Basically, this is it. We have reached the end of the line. According to medical technology, there is no other options available today. I had no choice. I walked out of the room hesitantly. She was sitting, waiting in the room. And as soon as she noticed me, she jumped out of a chair with a smile on her face. But as soon as I got a little closer, I guess she saw my posture, the way I was walking, and she realized the results were no good. She ran out of the room, ran towards the elevator, ran to a bench that is over there, and sat down and started sobbing. I waited a few minutes for her to calm down. And she looked up at me after a few minutes, and she said the following words: "We now have nothing. We now have nothing." And she explained what she meant. Before they left to New York 3 weeks ago, my husband went into his boss and asked for a leave of absence. His boss questioned for the reason, and my husband explained to him that I was the only hope ever to have a child. But the arrogance of his boss didn't understand that desperation. You need company? You need satisfaction? Why don't you just adopt a dog? The young man insisted to his boss that they would do anything to have a child. And his boss coldly responded to him, well, then you have a choice to make. It's either a child or a job. She said, we have given up so much. We have given up our families to be frum. We have given up our livelihood in the hope of raising a child of our own, a child who would follow in the ways of the Torah. And now we are going back home with nothing. No family, no job, and no child. I just stood over there and started crying together with her. After a few minutes, I picked myself up and told her, I'll be back soon. I went over to the doctor and I asked the doctor, please, see what you can do for this couple. And the doctor looked at me and said, you were there in the room. You saw exactly what we did. You saw I tried everything to help this couple. There's nothing I can do. He says, as you saw, we took up a few samples up to the laboratory, but the percentage of getting something out of that is only 2-3%. I wouldn't give that hope to this church, to this couple. It's called false hope. I said, do me a favor, see what you can do. They should do a little bit more than they can, because this couple needs this Yeshua. The couple we placed in a hotel next door to the hospital. So if anything is available, she should be available right away in the morning to be able to go for the procedure. At 5 a.m., the hospital contacted us that the couple was to come down immediately to the center, and now they are, Baruch Hashem, expecting a simcha. That even the greatest specialist in this area did not seem possible. This is what ATIME deals with on a daily basis. Our couples are looking at you right now, all of you, and see how much you care. They feel how much you're willing to give of yourself, how you reach out to your friends to support and help them. You are all going home with so much tonight. The Dafna Gemara that you prepared over the last few months, the hours of Limud HaTorah, the Shas that you finished here today, the money that was raised to help the couples. But I'm asking you all that the most important message you should go home today with, look at the miracle of life you all created. When Rabbi Shaul was a small child, the king in his town heard of his brilliance, of his chachma, and he reached out and summoned him to the palace. When Rabbi Shaul walked into the king's chambers, the king asked him, there's such a thing by the Jews as Yochid v'Rabim, Halacha keRabim. When you have an individual and majority, you pick the majority. How can you still be, if you're such a smart kid, how can you still pick the Jewish faith over the non-Jewish faith when the non-Jewish faith is the majority? And Rabbi Shaul answered to the king, I'm sitting here in the king's chambers, looking at the king with all his glory sitting on his throne. If the whole world would come to me now and tell me, you are not the king, would I believe them? No. For what do I see with my eyes? You don't go by majority. He says, we see Yad Hashem every single day. We see how Hashem takes care of us. So how can I not believe and the Yiddish way is the true way? But today, we don't only see Yad Hashem. Today we see Am Hashem. Today we see Am HaNivcha. Today we see Eden coming out from all over that are caring for people they don't even know. As we started off, Kol Yisruel Arayvim Zeh Lezeh. So Hashem should bench all of us. That we should be Zoiche to everything we need. In all the couples struggling with infertility, should be Zoiche to Doiris Yeshurim and Baruchim. I just want to take a moment. All the work that ATIME does is not done by the staff alone. We have a tremendous board. We have tremendous individuals who give away from themselves. And I'm not going to keep the oilam up. I just want to mention their names quickly. Our president, Rabbi Moshe Fisher. Our main board member, Rabbi Moshe Blum. Rabbi Avram Ausch, who's not only here with his gift, he's here, but Mumman is also just donated an office in Williamsburg. Avram Greenhut, who started out the whole relationship between me and Moshe Fisher. Yechiel Eisenstadt, who has been on board the last 14 years. And Chava v'Yedidi Harav Naftula Weiss. But it wouldn't be right for me not to mention two other individuals. Everybody was amazed of today's event, of how organized it was, and how much detail went into it. I would like to everyone to please give a standing ovation to Rabbi Yoel Wexler and Amod Chetriga. Ashkoyach, ashkoyach, ashkoyach.